Justin, Ellie, thank you so much for being here today. How you two doing now that you've had a little downtime?
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing awesome. I mean, I'm still enjoying my downtime. She started getting back into training a little bit. I mean, training per se, like getting some accessory work in. We're gonna do a zone 2 run later today, but just enjoying it. I actually, like, after this year's games, in like a much better headspace than I was last year. Last year, going to last year's games, I was just like, felt like this little like overwhelmed. Like I was just really burnt out. Like I was just trying to get through the game, so I had my month off, and now like I've been enjoying training so much more, having Ellie on the team and stuff like that. So it's been really good. Now I'm just like, okay, I know my body needs the time, so I'm gonna make sure I take the time. You know.
Yeah. How come you jumped into things so quickly?
Back with training, you mean? Well, I mean, he won the games. Came 18th, so I've got a bit of ground to make up. But I probably like jumped back into training. I'm doing like accessory stuff more so. I've got a few more things to work on, and I'm feeling pretty good. So we thought, let's start with some easy stuff and then go from there.
And real quick, because I know some stuff is coming around the corner. Any thoughts on doing like the road qualifier or anything like that? Is that maybe the reason why?
I did think about it. It is very soon, and I think, if I was to do it, I probably wouldn't be able to get as much out of it as what I was like a few weeks ago, especially having so much time off. But no, I don't think I'm going to do the online qualifier at this stage.
Every time you go to the games or a competition, it's an opportunity to learn about yourself, learn where your fitness is. What did you learn about where you are now and what needs to improve moving forward?
I think I already sort of knew where I was in relation to what I needed to work on. But yeah, as you said, like each year, every time you go to the games, you experience everything there in a different environment. And I probably, especially being with like Adam and Justin and Jesse this year, it was a little bit different. So we got a lot out of it, especially going into this season and getting the whole season under Adam and Jesse. So we got some really good takeaways.
Yeah, Justin, kind of a similar question, because this year you felt like you were facing a different set of challengers along the way compared to, Pat and Brent last year, with Roman and Ricky kind of stepping up.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big difference between last year and this year. I mean, even my first 2 years of the games, I mean, obviously going in my rookie year, like who would have thought I'd been on the podium, let alone the top 5? I was just trying to get top 20, So I was just like the whole way, I was just like, this is awesome. I'm doing good, And then kind of going into 2021 was the same kind of feeling. Like everyone I felt kind of had the narrative around like 2020 was just a weird year. So everyone's just kind of got to reprove themselves. Yep. And I was just trying to like get a top 10. So everyone was like, okay, this guy is legit. Like he can compete at the top. And just to be in contention for being on the podium the whole weekend was just like the whole time, like, this is freaking wild. I mean, obviously going into last year, I wanted to win. And then after winning it last year, just from like week 1 of training, like the goal was to win again, like it wasn't like just, okay, I just want to show I belong. Like the goal all last year was to win the CrossFit Games. And it's definitely a different mindset going into it. And I never got out of third place. The first event I got third, and I was in the top 3 the whole time, but just very unhappy the first 7 events not being where I wanted to be,
Why is that?
Just someone else had what was mine, I felt like,
With the jersey?
Yeah. It's just, obviously, I mean, I knew I was giving it everything I had every event. And at the end of the weekend, if I knew I gave it everything and I ended up in whatever place I did, I'd be happy. I wasn't mad about my effort or my performance or anything like that. It's just, obviously you wish, like I knew I was capable of winning the CrossFit Games again. And took me a lot longer than I thought to kind of get back in the spot where I wanted to be.
That's an interesting thing to pick apart, because for one, you want that instinct to almost be territorial at the top, right? Like, I earned this, I want to defend it. But at the same time, that idea, if not framed properly, can kind of be kind of poisonous,
for sure,
along the way. What was, I guess, through those first 7 events, was there anything that you and Adam and the team kind of worked around through that to make sure that it didn't become a detriment?
No, for sure. I mean, that's kind of like the overarching theme. Like, obviously, we want to win the CrossFit Games, but thinking about winning the CrossFit Games doesn't win you the CrossFit Games. And just for us, I mean, our motto is die for points. And no matter what, you never know at the end of the weekend when you're going to need 5 points, 4 points, even 2 points. I mean, you look back on the leaderboard and people are like, oh, I missed out on the podium by like 10 points or whatever. If I just would have beat 3 more people in the last workout, I would have done it. But you probably look back across the 14 events, they probably messed up on one event and 3 people passed them. It's like, well, that's where you lost it. You didn't lose it on the very last event. So for us, it's just getting everything we can out of every workout. So when we get to the end of the weekend, we know we did everything we could to earn the points that we have. So,
Yeah, Ellie, you made a very big change. I mean, a couple big changes here in the past couple of years. You're moving from Australia, then to Canada. Now you're at Fort Vancouver. Why was ending up at Fort Vancouver the right move for you?
I didn't go down to Fort Vancouver with the intention of staying there. I think there's something really special about that place and the environment. And I knew as soon as I sort of walked in, I just felt like this overarching sense of like, this is right and this is where I need to be to reach my goals. So yeah, it wasn't like a intentional move, but when I experienced it, there was just like no looking back.
What are the things that, when you're looking for a coach, and because I'm always really interested as to how athletes pick that, because it's such a personal choice, but what are the things that you that need to be there for you to say, yeah, okay, this makes total sense for me to be in this environment?
I was training by myself in Australia and I'd never had any in-person coaching per se. Like when I first started, I obviously did classes and you have a coach there. But I pretty much jumped straight into like remote coaching. So a lot of the things that I need to work on was skill-based and like technique stuff. So when I went to Fort Vancouver and had Adam in person, and even from the first week I was there, it was clear that there was a lot of little things that I had to sort of take a step back and strip things down to move forward. And I'd never really experienced anything like that. So I thought, like this is something that could benefit me a lot.
Was the decision process easy for you? Because I feel, it takes a certain conviction, obviously, to uproot your life and move. And then in this sport, anything of that significance gets publicized. But then you make another switch going over to Fort Vancouver. And I don't want to say it was like a clean narrative, but like moving to Canada and having a female coach in Michelle Letendre, like is a very cool story, and it got covered accordingly. But then to suddenly have to pivot again, was that like, did you lose sleep over it? I'm always curious, like, because the way you describe it, and I'm obviously drawing this question out, but the way you described it seemed like it was almost like I knew immediately and there was no other choice.
No, it was definitely a very difficult decision for me to make, and I lost a lot of sleep over it. Michelle and I obviously had a great relationship, and she was my first CrossFit coach, and so I felt like horrible that I had to leave her, especially because it wasn't anything to do with her or her programming or anything like that. It was literally just circumstance. At the end of the day, my decision, it was what was going to elevate me to the level that I wanted to go to, and it was either go back to Australia, keep training by myself every day, which had got me to the games, so it wasn't like a disaster, or it was move to the US, train under Adam and Jesse and with Justin as a training partner. And at the end of the day, that was what I thought was going to be the best for my CrossFit moving forward. And I think in this sport, sometimes you have to be a little bit selfish. And as much as it killed me to leave Michelle, it was, I think, the right thing to do.
How did this help you? Because you're someone who's trained by himself and really haven't had an athlete of Ellie's caliber there.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a big change and something that like we talked about a lot. And we've also had a lot of success of like what we've been doing. I mean, my rookie year, like being on the podium like both times is something that's really cool. But obviously that's not like the end goal. We want to like keep evolving, keep getting better, because that's what everyone else is doing. So if we keep doing what we've been doing, like the field's just going to keep inching ahead. So it's every year we're trying to find like where can we keep improving, keep getting better. And for me, like I know I always train better when I'm happy and stuff. And like I said, before and even after the 2021 games, it was very mentally tough, just like going through those long days by myself. Obviously Adam's there, but hyper focused on me, pushing me to my limits. And it's definitely was a really, really tough mental battle. I was juggling between, I knew I was finishing school, and in my head, if I felt like I didn't get third or better, like all my sponsors were going to leave me. And like, then I was like, well, then I'm gonna have to go get a job. And how am I going to train if I have to go get a job and compete? I know a lot of people do it, but just in my head, just running around all these things that could go wrong. And it was just I felt like alone in the space, and we always knew that I'd work better with like training with someone, not someone I would be competing against per se, like on the leaderboard, but like preferably a female athlete. And we just kind of kept our ears open. We weren't reaching out to anybody. Just kind of, if the opportunity comes along and it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Obviously, what we're doing is working, and we'll kind of just wait and see. And when she like wanted to come out, and I was like, yeah, like for sure. Like I've traveled, I went and saw Matt, I went and trained with Rich and all those things. So wasn't really like new to have someone wanted to come train with me. And just the first week that she was here, it was just like so much fun. We clicked really, really fast. Didn't feel awkward or anything like that. And yeah, man, it's been awesome. It's just, especially in the back of the mind though, it's like, well, I'm enjoying training so much more going into the games this year. Like this is either going to be a really good thing or a really bad thing, you know? Like I was like, last year I just felt like I was just running myself into a hole, you know? And I'm like, well, maybe that's what it took to win the CrossFit Games. And this year it wasn't even close to being like that. I was still giving it everything I had in my training, but I was enjoying the process so much more. And I'm like, maybe I'm going to get to the games and get punched in the face and end up like in the bottom half of the field, you know, like, but it was awesome. I definitely felt like I was the fittest I've ever been. And I'm really excited to kind of have a full year of just like having fun, but like getting the best out of our training.
You touched on a couple of, I don't know, maybe like doubt bubbles in your head there. Is that a pretty normal process for you? Like to kind of work through those thoughts of self-doubt? Obviously we see the white leaders jersey, the 2-time champ, you know, beautiful hair, feathered and lethal kind of flowing behind you. But, you know, hearing those like moments of like, oh, if I mess this up, I got to get a job. And it may seem unrealistic to us as fans and members of the media. So I'm curious like what your process looks like in getting through that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I always kind of run through every case scenario, like of what's going to happen, you know, and it's definitely that there's a lot of times, but I do have a good team around me. I do get to talk to people, even though I keep a lot of it to myself.
Yeah.
But for me, at least, like I want to run through like everything that could go wrong, you know, and then kind of work from there to figure out how can I prevent that, you know, and that goes from like the large picture things, like get a whole new job, or even like workout to workout. Okay, like if I'm worried about my shoes being untied, it's like, okay, well, I can fix that. I'm just going to double knot my shoes, you know, like, like you can work through and prevent some of those things that you can't really control. It's like, okay, well, I'm just going to keep busting my butt in training, and I know that it'll pay off when the time comes. So it's just kind of good to like run through all those things that can happen and then work backwards and try to do everything you can to prevent it. And if that thing ends up happening, it's like, well, I did everything I could to prevent it. So like, I know it wasn't from a lack of effort, and that kind of eases everything to knowing that I'm doing everything I possibly can. Yeah.
And then Ellie, on the flip side of that, you know, obviously there's a balancing act that kind of has to go in, you know, at first, once you're kind of establishing the structure and framework of getting to work under a new coach with a new training partner, new environment. And obviously it can be, I don't want to say intimidating, but if you're training with someone who is the champ and has aspirations to be that again, was there a balancing act for you from like, hey, I need help, I'm trying to get the help that I need, and trying to balance that against what was going on with Justin and Adam already being established?
I don't think so. I think both of them as people are very like welcoming and accommodating, and there wasn't one time that I felt like I needed to change or I wasn't being heard or anything like that. Cool. Yeah, they were pretty welcoming right from the get-go.
Yeah, they're pretty nice guys.
Was there anything that kind of shocked you or surprised you about going into that environment that you thought was going to be different that wasn't? And if so, what was it?
Not really. I think I didn't really know what to expect going down there, but no, it was good right from the get-go, I think. And I don't know, maybe that Justin's just like a big goofy kid. Puts on a brave face for the camera, but behind the scenes is just a goofy kid at heart.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I coming from a big goofy kid at 36, you know. To follow up and kind of touching on that, has Adam's wife made you any of her sandwiches? Because the first time I went up there to visit, you were stoked about this sandwich that you'd gotten for lunch, and it was like driving your training for the day. And I was like, wow, that must be a great sandwich. So I was curious.
No, I actually haven't yet, but I have been meaning to, because I love like fresh sourdough bread.
Her sourdough is the best.
I've heard so much good things about it, but I'm yet to try it. So.
Okay, all right.
But there's lots of time. So
okay, there we go.
I'm not concerned.
You mentioned that you enjoyed training more. Why was that?
Yeah, I mean, I think just like this going into, especially the games training, the volume gets so big. And I have people like at CrossFit Fort Vancouver that are so supportive. I have people that hop into certain workouts with me, but then like they like scale it back and do all these things, which is awesome. And like they go hard, but I just didn't have anybody to kind of go through the full process and no one to kind of like that shared suffering is so good, you know, like that's why the CrossFit classes are awesome. I mean, everyone goes hard and you all get to enjoy the process together. And I just felt like I didn't have that. I had people hop in here or there, but like, I'm like, no one knows what I'm going through, you know, like I did like 4 or 5 workouts before you hopped into my training, you know, and I've been doing that for the past 2 months, you know, so it all accumulates, and it's really nice just to have someone that knows that feeling, but also is willing to kind of put in that hard work, and we're both have the same goal of trying to be the best that we possibly can be. So I think that's very different. I mean, everyone that hops in, I mean, obviously they're trying to be fit, like, oh, I got my job, I'm just trying to get a good workout in today, and they scale it back and all that stuff. But I think it was just really, really cool to kind of have someone that wanted to do it and wanted to be the best that they could possibly be. And it was a lot different too, getting beat in workouts. You know,
There we go, Ellie. Yeah.
Like I remember there's a girl at our gym named Tina. She's one of the coaches there, and she opted into a lot of my training. And like last year she beat me in one workout and just like held it over my head the whole time. And I just like make it my goal just to never let her beat me. And just like with her, I like try to make it a day without her beating me in a workout, and it never happens. You know, it's just, it's definitely really cool. I think a lot of her strengths are a lot of my weaknesses. And I think that's so cool because it's like, if I can hang with her in those workouts now, like I know that I'm getting close to be at the best. Like I know if I can hang with her in a barbell cycling workout or a squatting workout or a machine workout, like, okay, I'm making improvement. I think same thing goes the opposite. I think I do well. Like I have a good overhead mobility. I like gymnastics, handstand walking and stuff like that. And those are some of the things that she's got to work on too. So it's definitely a good balance, but it's also very hard to see you're sitting there struggling with some thruster bar and she's freaking banging them out. I'm breaking it up into 3 sets.
I can see her grinning like, oh yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a mental battle too, just to see, especially when training gets hard, you see someone blow through a workout and you don't. And that's something that I had to kind of like adjust to. But at the end of the day, we're not competing against each other, and we can both help each other out.
Does that help in not going too far? Because we've talked to a few coaches when they have a couple high-level athletes in the gym that there's an element of it being very beneficial because it ups the ante in training on a given moment, but they can take it too far and not know when to kind of throttle back and keep the bigger picture in mind. I know it's still early on, and I don't know if you guys have had to experience that, but like you mentioned, seeing someone else succeed when you're struggling, sometimes you can overdo it and push it when you don't need to. And I don't know if you guys have experienced that at all, or.
I mean, at least for me, I mean, I've never had a workout where Adam's like, oh yeah, just don't go 100%. So it's no matter what we're doing, we're going full out no matter what. So I've never really understood the thing where, we're going too hard too often. I'm like, you do that in everything you do. Like, and if you're not supposed to be doing that, you program the workout to not let you, you do 40-second work, 20-second rest, or you do like alternating. So there's work-rest ratio and stuff like that. And or you do like skill training to work on this, work on that. So it's all based off the program. I think Adam balances that out really quick between skill, and just like kind of sending it. We always have a couple workouts every day that we got to send it. But I think a lot of us too is we're obviously different athletes, and Adam coaches us that way. And each workout we each kind of have a separate game plan of like what's best for us to approach it. And sometimes I'm doing the game plan that she wants to be following, and she's doing the game plan that I want to be following. So we kind of switch things up which is really cool. And it's cool to see like how she would attack a workout compared to I would. And then we do it. And see, we've been playing a really fun game to where before we start a workout, we have to guess our time or guess our score.
Okay.
And it's pretty cool because like we're competitive. We're not going to like slow down to hit our time. We're just going to send it and see where we end up. But then the loser, whoever's farthest off, doesn't matter if you're over or under, has a punishment. And we'll pick something that we're bad at to like like a little bonus thing, like nothing bad. We'll do like 5 burpee muscle ups or like at the end of the workout.
It's a little spice factor.
But it's really fun. It's really cool about how close that we can get. Like you start to really understand and really digest and think about the workout, which is pretty fun.
Ellie, who's winning in that department?
Definitely me.
There you go.
She might beat me in the workout, but I'm better at the guessing, which I guess really doesn't matter.
She's got this sly smile over there, and I'm like, she's like, okay, yeah.
Actually, it's probably Justin.
Okay.
I'm pretty bad at the game. Sometimes
I look at her workout and I'm guessing like 7:30. Like it'd probably be like 7 to like 8.5 minute workout, and she's like 12 minutes, and I'm like, you're gonna blow your time. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm gonna like rope climbs are hard for me and
Your
all
deep's
this stuff.
better than me.
Yeah, and then she works on it so much, then she does it and almost beats me, and I'm like, really? You're 4 minutes faster than what you said.
Yeah. I genuinely think that's gonna be my time, and then I'll like beat it by 3 or 4 minutes. I think I'm still trying to adjust to like where I'm at, like with how much progress I've made in the past little bit. So.
Is that a tough process? I mean, we always, you hear about like in any kind of transformation journey, people have a hard time coming to terms with the total distance moved, because you see yourself every day. So you don't notice those small increments, but when you look back in totality, it's a lot bigger. So I'm curious, like hearing you, even if that simple exercise of picking times, it seems like there's a little bit of a gap there between like where you think you are and where you actually are.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think even like the progress that I've made from semis to the games has been like massive. And I actually like struggled a little bit at Torian just because I thought I was back here and my ability was actually like up here. And so I didn't attack the workouts like I probably should have, but not because I wasn't giving my all effort. It was just like my game plan was just a little bit off. And I think from like Adam obviously wasn't there in person and we'd only just started working together. So that made it a little bit difficult as well. But yeah, it's been like pretty cool to see.
Mm-hmm. What were your expectations heading into the games this year? And I'd be interested to hear from both of you on this, given that this was the first time that Adrian Bosman had programmed things.
Yeah, I mean, at least for me, I mean, I think no matter who you are, everyone does a really good job of it, but everyone has their bias, no matter what. You walk into any CrossFit gym and who's doing the programming, there's always a bias towards strength or conditioning or whatever it was. And I think like we expected Boz to have a little bit of a gymnastics bias. I wasn't sure like what we would see, but I knew we were going to probably see something new, something different. But it's always really fun playing the game and trying to figure out what you're going to see. A lot of athletes go, oh, it doesn't matter. I'm like, yeah, I know it doesn't matter. It's kind of fun. Like, how awesome is it to guess correctly? You know, you're like, you feel like king of the world. But yeah, I mean, it's not something that we focus on like huge. I don't think anybody saw double crossovers coming. I think that they did hint about the L-sit to handstand about in the weeks leading up to the game. So I think some people got a little bit of practice in for that. But I think it's not something I focus on huge. And in my eyes, like no matter what comes up, like the fittest person should win because it doesn't matter what the test is. The fittest should go all the way through. And you look at someone like Matt Frazier and Tia, like they can win the Open, they can win the quarterfinals, they can win the semifinals, and they can win the games, even though the Open, quarterfinals, and semifinals isn't meant to find the fittest on earth, but they're the best at all aspects of fitness. And I think that's kind of the goal for me is like I'm immune to the programming, and no matter what comes up, like I can stand at the top. And I think I still have a long ways to go until I'm there, but that's kind of the end goal, you know?
Yeah. What about you, Ellie? What were your expectations?
I mean, I didn't really have too many expectations this year. For me, it was just about testing what I'd been working on. And although I was a little bit disheartened, especially with my placing, I think looking back at the tests, especially in the first few days when there was a pretty heavy gymnastics bias, I am like pretty happy with where I ended up based on that. I think I've been putting a lot of work into those areas. And if these games were last year, I know I would have come out way worse than what I did this year. So yeah, I'm really happy, especially also another big thing I've been working on is my mental game. And I was able to stay so like checked in even when things weren't going my way. So yeah, this year was just about testing to see where I was at and what things we need to work on, see if we can uncover any new things that I need to work on, which we did. So yeah, it was a good games all in all.
You kind of found your stride in the back half of the competition. So going into the weekend, you were in 25th place, I think, after Friday night. And then, you rattle off your first event win, you get a top 5 finish, and you started to kind of chip away into the top 20. Was it as simple as programming? Was it, a mindset approach? What was it that allowed you to kind of improve as the weekend got along, whereas there's always the threat of something like cuts and things like that looming?
I think obviously programming plays a little bit of a part, but I think being able to stay mentally checked in, and I was just trying to soak up as much of the experience as I could. Looking back to last year, it was just a mess for me, and it was a blur, and travel restrictions and being there by myself and all those little things added up, and I can't really even remember competing last year. It was such of an emotional journey. So this year it was really about trying to stay present and just soak it all in, because all in all, you really don't know if this is going to be your last games. You hope it's not, but you never know. And so I was just, trying to stay present, and I think I was having fun. I really enjoyed being out there this year, and we train with Adam. I think he puts us through a lot. So as the weekend goes on and everyone's getting tired, I was still feeling pretty good, and felt like I could attack the workouts, and yeah.
And you attacked Hat Trick. You get that win. That was kind of a cool event, but it was very untraditional in terms of gauging where you are in the process, right? So if there's an event, if you're in the Capitol and you're winning that event, you kind of know most of the way. Were you any bit aware of where you were in that race, because it was kind of this race reload type environment?
No, I didn't know where I was. I didn't know my times for each interval. But before I went out there, Adam sort of said I was in the first heat, so I knew that I wasn't going to know the previous heat or the heat after me's times. And Adam sort of said give them a time to chase. You can attack this workout, go out there and just give it your all each interval, and give them the time to beat. And so that's exactly what I did. Each interval, I just went out there and went as fast as I could. The first one, I was probably a little bit hesitant, because you don't know how you're going to feel the first dumbbell snatch after the wall balls. So I was probably a little bit conservative, but then after the first round, I was just grip and rip, as soon as you get to the dumbbell, just go. And yeah. Yeah,
we were in the back, and we saw her first time, and she won her heat. I was all right, well, we'll see. I'm curious where the second heat's going to go, because I know that she's going to be she's the best squatter that I've ever seen. And then the first heat went, and she was still she won it, but it was close. And then the second round, she shaved 5 seconds off her time. It's over. There's no way that anyone's touching her.
Is that another element of that's additive from the training partner perspective, is having someone else to kind of cheer on and root for in that regard? Because funny enough, you follow the Liver King at all?
I know who he is.
I was listening to an interview because I was really curious about what his thing was. But one of the elements he talks about is bonding in training, and that just element of hey, shared suffering translates to competition, when suddenly I can root for someone other than myself, and there's fulfillment there. So I was curious if that was an additive experience for you guys.
Yeah, I definitely found that, especially if you've had a bad event or a good event, you can sort of disperse some of that. You come back and, you have something else to focus on. It's not just about you, at least for me anyway. And I did find it difficult, especially for the last event, because this year they didn't have the final men and final women's heat at the end. It was all all the men and then all the women. And I was warming up for my last event while he was on. So I didn't warm up for probably when I should have, because I was just watching the event. But yeah, it was really cool to be able to watch someone else and cheer them on.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I am always surprised, and I shouldn't be because I hear it a lot, but when athletes of your caliber talk about mental game, because I think, me included, I view you as these superhuman fitness robots, and it's kind of shocking sometimes to hear that there's a mental thing that needs to be worked on. So when you say you need to work on your mental game, what exactly does that mean?
For me, it's mostly confidence and a lot of self-doubt sort of creeps in. I think I'm still very new in the sport. I mean, I only started in like July of 2017. So I still feel like a beginner, and I still feel like there's so much to learn. And when I think of myself like coming up against the top girls in the sport, it's still taking me a little bit of time to get used to saying my name in the same sentence. I mean, like I grew up, or I started CrossFit watching these girls on TV and just wanting to be like them. So now it's about like really feeling like I deserve to be out there. And it's coming. I mean, the more competitions I do, the better I get. I mean, last year at the Games, that was my third competition ever. So it was very new and like very daunting. So with each competition, I'm slowly gaining that confidence. And like, I mean, an event win, you sort of like, oh, okay, like I can do this. This is cool. But yeah, it's just taking a little bit of time.
Yeah. I was going to say, you mentioned kind of the women that you grew up watching. Australia on the women's side has a tremendous legacy in the sport. And I'm curious that now, I mean, you look at the other two women that you qualified with, I don't want to say they're at the back end of their career, but Kara's been there a decade. Tia has been at the top for a long time. You can kind of see the arc kind of shaping. And I'm curious if you feel a responsibility to like kind of continue that legacy, or if it's something that's exciting to you to be able to do that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, my goal is to win the Games one day, and so I would love to continue their legacy. And I started competing I started CrossFit in 2017 after I saw their battle in the final event. So just to be able to compete against them, and it's mind blowing. Like, yeah, it's crazy.
Justin, there are a few moments I want to talk to you about at the Games and LEU too. And first is the Sandbag Ladder. That was an event that I think caught a lot of people off guard, because we're used to seeing barbells get rolled out on Saturday night. When you heard about that, what's going through your head that, oh, I got to go out and pick up these heavy bags instead of a barbell?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it was kind of looming as the couple of days go on. Like, we started to really think about it, and I was like, well, they didn't say heavy barbell. I mean, they said we're going heavy, and we got fitted for a yoke. Like, maybe we're just going to do like a heavy yoke carry. Like, I thought like maybe some strongman implements were going to come out. I did not guess a sandbag, but it was really interesting. I mean, how many gyms have you been to that? Pretty much they all have a 150. If a gym has a 200-pound sandbag, it's like, oh, wow, like that probably thing is full of dust or not even filled with sand because no one uses it. And at Rogue was the first time that I even touched anything over a 200, and that was the 250. And all we did was like lift it up to a table this high. So it was something like, it was pretty crazy. They announced it, and I was like, you just have no idea. I mean, I was like, no one's ever put a 250-pound bag to their shoulder, like, as far as I'm concerned, and if it has, probably only a couple people in the field, and you just didn't know what to expect. Like, I figured everyone would get a 250, but like, there was just no range of being like, where are we going to be able to get to this thing? Like it's definitely a very odd object, and the women went first, and yeah, it was pretty interesting in the warm-up area to see everyone just kind of trying to figure it out.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating. It's almost like we talk about the unknown and unknowable and its application in the sport. Like, I think you captured it a little bit. Like, hey, here's this heavy object, get it up, like get it to your shoulder. Kind of had like a cool. What were some of the things you guys approached from like in the back practicing early on, because you have a very limited scope to practice?
Well, women went first, so I didn't have quite as long to like play with the bag. But we tried a few different techniques. Obviously, you can pick up the bag like long ways, or you can go like vertically. I tried both, and I felt more comfortable picking it up vertically, so that's what we went with. But yeah, it was interesting in the warm-up area. Like, everyone was scrambling, trying to work out the best way to go about it. But yeah.
Have you been coached? You look like, because watching you, it looked like you'd been coached. That's doing this stuff.
YouTube. The hour before,
all right.
So like, I mean, we had no idea what to do. I'm like, I just Googled heavy sandbag lift, and then I'd like watched some people do it, and the people that did it, the heaviest that I saw, did it the way that the way I was doing it, and
you did the kind of over under, right?
Yeah, like, the over under lift, and we like, okay, like we'll just test out both in the warm up area. The other, like I don't know what you call it, hot dog style. The other way, it just looked like there's a lot of time under tension. Like, once you got it up, it was just a big shimmy. But the other way, it looked like if you can get it to your lap, it was more of like a quick transition to your shoulder was what we thought. But like, I've never even touched the sandbag before, so like, I have no idea what to happen. And in the warm up area, all they had was a 260 and a 300 for the guys. And like, there was a lot of people struggling with the 260 in the warm-up area. Like, everyone was getting it, but everyone was like, you could see the faces when they walked away, along with mine. I was like, oh, Lord, this is our second weight. Like, uh-oh. It was a 300-pound bag, and, like, I saw, like, 3 or 4 people attempt it. No one even got it to their lap. And I was like, people kept trying to lift it up, and they're like, no, that's not happening. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. Like, I'm just going to go up and pick it up. And I got it to my shoulder, and you can kind of, like, see everyone was like, uh-oh. In my head, I'm like, dude, it's going to be a quick event. You know, like there might be a couple of us that like take the sandbag up, but by 300 pounds, like I would assume most of the field's going to be gone, because I only saw 2 other people in the warm-up area hit the 300. I saw lots of people attempt it. Only 2 other people get it. And dude, adrenaline, I guess, is a crazy thing, because we got out there and the whole field made it to 300. It seemed like it was crazy. Nothing that we expected. I mean, I didn't think I was getting too far past 300 either. And it was, it was a wild event.
I have to ask about like mid-event, right? It didn't seem like there was a ton of structure by intent as far as like you finish your lift and then everyone's kind of milling about. I was on the floor watching both sides of it, and it almost seemed like this case study in human behavior. It's like if you throw a bunch of like just alphas into a pit and then you give them a task one by one, like how do they manage and sort themselves accordingly? So from your guys' perspective, what was that process like? Because it seemed very, very intriguing, at least from our end.
It was a little bit like there wasn't really too many rules. And we were told that in the briefing. They sort of said, like, you have 30 seconds to lift, but if you want to have another attempt, we're going to be like a little bit flexible with that. But then we didn't really address like what happens when people start getting out and like your line gets shorter. Do you then just like have less rest or what goes on? So I know like, I mean, I was in Danny Spiegel's line, so she was just like cycling through pretty quick. But I went up to one of the judges and I was like, can I have a little bit more rest? Like, do I have to go now, or can I like try and cycle through like I was before and like miss a few? And they were sort of like, yeah, like, that's fine if that's what you want to do. And then like when I eventually got out, I think I was the last one to lift, and then it was like the tie break, and I sort of went up to Boz and I was like, I'm going to need some time because I'm seeing stars right now. Like I need to take a little bit of a break. And he was like, yeah, that's cool. So I think they were like, they knew it was going to be a little bit more flexible in that style of event. And they were just sort of, they had control of it, but there wasn't any like set guidelines.
That is such a unique environment. And, we can all, most of us can imagine what that is like. You get to experience it. What is that experience like, being on that floor with that many people, being that loud during that event?
I just got chills.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a lot different for me, at least, than like an Olympic lifting. Like I feel like if you hit an ollie lift with like precision and aggression, it's not a huge tax. Like if you can catch the bar in the front rack nice and high, bounce out of the squat and smash your jerk, like for a clean and jerk, like it's not too bad, but like there's like kind of no way to like escape the sandbag with ease, like it's a hard lift off the ground, and it's a hard lift shimmying it up your body kind of from the last 3 or 4 weights. At least that was for me. And it took so much like mental concentration to be checked in that like I just kind of had like a tunnel vision on like what I needed to do. And it was like lift, recover, and then try to like, I kept walking back and forth to try to get that like adrenaline pumping again so I could get myself to kind of attack the sandbag. So it was definitely like, it was pretty crazy and kind of like in shock, because like I don't feel the same way when I'm like doing 3 heavy lifts for a clean and jerk compared to like those last 3 lifts with the sandbag was so much more like taxing. But like the thing with like an ollie lift is like, if you miss it, you miss it, but like you can grind through that sandbag. Like, doesn't mean you're going to get it, but like you can grind and work for it, which I kind of was what everyone loved to see.
Yeah.
But no matter what, it's super like expensive.
What's it like to having all those people just watch you out there? Everyone's just like looking at you and then going nuts when you're wrestling. I mean, do you feel that effect? Does it help?
You do feel it. It definitely adds to the adrenaline, but you are in such like a tunnel vision of like the task at hand, and like I'm out here to do this job, that it's like a weird feeling almost. It's like, they're watching, but it doesn't really matter. If that makes sense.
It seemed like at times, as the bags got heavier and the numbers dwindled a little bit, there was a little bit more time to, if you needed to as an athlete, tap into that. because you talked about like having to get geared up for that a little bit. It felt like there were times when like everyone realizes like, oh man, I got another fight on my hands. Like you just went 5 rounds with a world-class boxer and you got to go back in. Like, all right. Now I'm going to talk to everyone, like throw the hands up. And I don't know if you guys felt that, but it seemed like there were more people trying to tap into that.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of people trying to tap into it. I kind of just try to like focus on what I was doing. And I think it was awesome to see the crowd just kind of got behind me no matter what, you know? And like the only way I can kind of describe that feeling is like when you're in the gym and like your song comes on, you know, and you're just like, let's go, you know? And I think like when the crowd gets wild, like that's the kind of like adrenaline dump you get. And I feel like everyone kind of has that feeling when they're in the middle of the workout and they hear their song and they're like, oh yeah, you know? So just kind of like channeling that in and kind of smashing the bag.
Quick aside, what's that song right now?
Oh, shoot.
I don't even know.
You know, I'm an oldies fan, so just like anything like Let's Hear It for the Boys or just something like Footloose, just grooving, you know. I'm like, yeah.
I wasn't looking at Sean, but as soon as you said that, I felt him just.
The music I grew up with is now oldies. That's
dude, it's so good.
Footloose,
you just made him feel way older.
I only get to play that playlist on Sundays because no one's in the gym.
Is this
us.
like an 80s playlist?
Yeah.
Yep. What's on it?
Oh, here. I'll pull it up.
All right.
We're
getting sidetracked. I gotta know.
It's our 40-minute EMOM.
It's our 40-minute EMOM playlist. And Adam kind of falls into it with me. So
Ellie, your chance to pick your song. What is it? Is there anything that stands out, or is it a genre that you like?
Not really. I like pretty chill music. So I don't have like a real hype up song, but if I'm doing like a really intense workout, it's got to be like a pretty upbeat playlist. But otherwise, I'm like
It's
nice,
like
chilled, like indie sort of music.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so like the songs at the top, Let's Hear It for the Boys, Footloose, Ain't No Mountain High Enough.
Ooh, there we go.
Now we're
talking.
Hooked on a Feeling, Sugar Sugar.
Wow.
Like Boogie Shoes, Rich Girl.
It's kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy, like that soundtrack is the best.
It is a good one.
Yeah.
It is, you can't beat it.
But,
all right, we got sidetracked there.
So no, sorry, but I was curious about that. But Justin, I'm curious because it almost felt a little poetic from our end, seeing one. There was the moment of you, Roman, and Ricky standing side by side with the 3 bags. That was probably my highlight of the weekend. Just seeing that interaction, all 3, like with the point spread being what it was. But also for you, because 2019, the thing that kept you out of the games was a sandbag. And I remember we interviewed you, I think I think we interviewed you after Filthy 150, and you're talking like, I spent all year working on sandbags. So it seemed like, oh, he's in a fight for the top, and what's this familiar foe again, like a sandbag? And I'm curious if that was ever present at all, or did it feel like once you got through that, you're like, yeah, that kind of like closed the chapter on that?
Yeah, no, I definitely felt like I did like kind of close the chapter on that, but like it doesn't mean it wasn't in like the back of my mind, you know. It was such high stakes, and especially with like that kind of mindset going in, which is not a great one to have, is like, oh, by the time you get the 300-pound bag, like this field's going to be pretty small, and it was not the case. So it was just like, you got to like send it, because just getting one more bag is like 5 to 10 spots. Once you got to past 300, you know, like everyone was at 300. If you made just one more bag, it was just this huge jump. And like you said, like these are the guys I need to beat. Like if they get one more bag than me, then like they can put a huge gap on me and there's nothing I can do about it. You know, like I just got to stand back and watch. So it was definitely pretty crazy. And I think like the whole weekend I was kind of focused on like, hold off Ricky, hold off Ricky, hold off Ricky, hold off Ricky. And then all of a sudden Roman was there and I was like, oh, wait, like Roman's coming in right now. So it was, I mean, it's not like I'm ever focusing on one person. It's just kind of who's in front of me. And then once you kind of in that top spot, then you kind of start looking behind you to see who's there. And it was crazy to see Roman, especially I competed with him in Filthy 150.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was very similar, right? You were out in front and he started winning some events and chipping away. Almost kind of deja vu, if you will. Ellie, I have to ask about the tiebreaker, because that was another unique element to this event. And you went out at the 210 bar with like 5 or 6 girls, but you get the win ahead of Tia too in that element. What was that like? Was there any like quick strategy, given that you said that like I was seeing stars almost afterwards?
I knew that I wanted to do the small sandbag first, and I was second guessing myself a little bit, seeing all the girls before me. They pretty much all went like big bag, middle bag, small bag. But yeah, I knew I wanted to go small bag first. And as soon as I turned around, I just like, it was I knew the bags were going to feel really light because we'd just been lifting like, some very heavy sandbags. So I pretty much stepped, just grabbed the 50, like chucked it over my shoulder, same with the 100, and then took one step, grabbed the 150 and was over. I didn't, knowing the lineup, like, I mean, I didn't go into it thinking that I wasn't going to win, but I knew that I liked moving sandbags, especially like moderate weight ones. So I was like, well, this is mine to lose. Let's try and pick off as many spots as I can. And yeah, paid off.
It paid off for 8. You made up 8 placings in that one.
Yeah.
Freya was the last place in that one, and she was 14th at 210. So well played.
Thank you.
The other moment I wanted to talk to you about, you kind of mentioned, here comes Roman.
Yeah.
Back 9 on the yoke. He is ahead of you. Now, had he stayed there, that could have had a drastic effect on things.
For sure.
He puts it down. You still are moving. What is going through your mind when you see him stop?
Dude, it's the best thing ever. That's like it's just a huge adrenaline dump, you know? Like it's crazy. I mean, it kind of happened again back in at the lunge event. Like Ricky dropped his bar too, and it's just like, oh, dude, you effed up. I feel like in that moment, like they kind of like mentally break, you know? And it's just fuel for everyone behind you, you know? Like everyone wants to catch you. So it was definitely really cool, and that's definitely one of my highlights of the weekend. I mean, I think we talked about like before the weekend started, like what's that moment you're looking for, and you're kind of like looking for that moment of being like, hey, like I belong, like this is cool. And I feel like even though it's pretty much the second to last workout, like I feel like that was my moment, you know, like like it's over now, you know. And it was really cool, kind of boosted my confidence going into the last event.
That felt like the nail in the coffin moment for sure, especially seeing that. And it's funny, there's been the parallels. Obviously, you had that moment. It felt like a little bit with Ricky when you passed him on the lunge, and it was like, okay, Justin's starting to charge. Last year in the Run Clean event, when Fikowski and Pat were on either side, and you just kind of like, whoop, excuse me, right up the middle. But going back to, and I'm always curious about this too, is the Saturday night, you know, it's a big time event, and you have this awesome moment, whether it's, you know, lifting side by side or beating out a bunch of people on the tie break to really improve your stock. How do you come down from that? Is it easy for you to just like, all right, switch it off, go to sleep, I'm out? Or is it like you have a process you need to kind of like ease that? Because understandably, it might be difficult.
I mean, it is difficult, but I think after the sandbag especially, like I was pretty drained. Like I hit a wall pretty quickly after that. But I made it like my mission to sort of get back to the room, recover as quickly as possible. So like eat, shower, like try and wind down. There's definitely events that are harder to wind down from than others, like being in the Coliseum on like a Saturday night is probably one of the most difficult. But I think over the course of the weekend, the quicker you can have an event, whether it's good or bad, and then like move on to the next one or your next task at hand, which was recover and sleep, the better you're going to be at the end of the weekend. So that's what we were sort of trying to focus on.
What about you? You just pass out?
Oh, dude, that Sandbag event, I hands down the most expensive event I've ever done. Like after that event, like the only thing I can kind of compare it to is the trail run from 2020 when we had to do it again backwards.
Yeah.
Like I remember that was the only other time after event was like, I do not know how I'm going to feel tomorrow. Like I just like, I was like, I have not felt like this before. Like just like how spent I was, just like shocked the CNS, how hard you were pushing. And then after I was just like, I don't know. But both those experiences, like I woke up the next day and I was like, I'm good. Let's go. It's just like kind of that feeling like the feeling was a lot different than what I've experienced before. So it's just kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen. Cause like you can do a heavy squat clean, heavy back squat, hit Fran super hard. It's terrible, but you know the feeling. So like I was comfortable with it. Like I know what I need to do to kind of recover. But after that long trail run and after that heavy sandbag, it was just so new to me that I was just like, my body hasn't experienced this before, so I don't know what's going to happen in the morning. And we have like really good recovery protocol. I've just between like GoWOD and just like I've bring my 8 sleep mattress there. It's crazy that the difference that those little things make like throughout like a competition weekend like that. Because the games, who can recover the best?
I had one more quick question, and it's about the last sandbag in particular. Because a few athletes made there and no one got it. And it's one of the few times where like that moment didn't quite finish itself, it felt like.
Yeah.
I'm curious from like an athlete standpoint in those scenarios, are you almost like rooting for the other athletes to kind of like, hey, and I'll preface this, it seemed like some of the athletes stuck around and were cheering for someone to like get it. Like we can't let the test beat us in that regard. Do you feel that at all?
Well, yeah, I definitely was like cheering on people, at least for me, because the people that were close behind me weren't the people at the end. So I was just
there you go.
I mean, I was like, all right, like, let's go. Like, I want to see something cool. And then obviously when they rolled out that last sandbag, I'm like, this is going to be awesome. And I was honestly really surprised that no one got it, because I feel like there was a couple guys that handled the 340 really well, like per se. Yeah. Like I was like, oh, they easily got another 10 pounds in you. And, wasn't the case, but you still got a good showdown in the sandbag sprint.
Yeah,
in your 2 championship years, you've won 1 event. When you hear that, but it's a testament to your consistency. So it's not there's 2 edges to that. Yeah. But when you hear that, what goes through your mind?
It's just it's honestly frustrating, like I want to be the best, and I feel like I don't have that like moment, and like the whole weekend goes along and I just got to listen to like Ricky get interviewed about his event wins and all the other guys out there, and it's just like I'm just kind of cruising along and second, third, or whatever top 10 finishes, and I feel like it's definitely frustrating. Like I want to be like dominant in the sport, and especially watching someone like Matt Frazier and even Rich before that kind of just win year after year after year. I feel like you kind of have to have those event wins, and I'm not there yet. Obviously, like step 1 is to be consistent, and like good luck beating me if I'm doing that. And I definitely want those event wins. I think one of the things that's super exciting though is there's not too many events that came out this year where I was like, I don't have a chance to win it. I think going into most of the workouts this year is like, no, like I'm out here to win it. Like obviously it's realistic. Hey, I'm not going to win every event this year. I didn't win any, but like there's like going into each event, like especially even at semifinals this year, is like I felt like in my mind that I could have won each workout. And I think that's kind of like the goal in training is like no matter what comes up, like I'm going to be competing for that top spot in this workout instead of being like, this is damage control. Like I'm just going to try to hang and we're like, and obviously those workouts you just get kind of punched in the face in where you're like, I thought I was going to do well. That did not happen.
I did use that at the end of the weekend though. Like he won the games, but I won an event.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes. Didn't get one of these trophies, did you?
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
One up on you there.
And you get to own that for the rest of the year.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, not very often I get one up on him. So.
I'm the best of the world at nothing, I guess.
Well, you are in very elite company now. There's only 2 other men who have ever done what you have done, and that's Rich Froning and Matt Frazier. That's win multiple games.
Yeah.
I think back to watching you at regionals way back when as a teenager, basically. If you went back and told yourself at that moment, hey, one day you're going to be mentioned in the same breath as these other 2, what do you think you would have said at that point?
Man, dude, I still got chills when you said that right now. I mean, it's really crazy. I think about a video back on my Instagram of you 2 talking about regionals in 2017 of me. I think it was Nick Palladino and George Sterner, and we were the 3 young guys that qualified for regionals that year, and it was just like, that was my claim to fame. I was on TV per se, like with you guys talking about me, and you guys even recognized like that I was there was so cool. And
I wrote an article about you.
Yeah, I remember it, and I still have it saved on my Instagram. But it's definitely something that's super special, and like the goal is ever to qualify for the CrossFit Games, and I mean, it's just like a dream come true. I mean, I never would have dreamed about my worst finish the CrossFit Games 3rd place, and it's definitely it's so crazy to think about, but it's definitely a dream come true. I mean, I finished school and like, I'm always trying to figure out what I'm going to do after school. And it's crazy to think that I can just kind of like keep pursuing this fitness journey.
Yeah. Ellie, I have a question about Wodapalooza this year, because we haven't been able to catch up really since then. That seemed like a turning point. At least in the eyes of some of us media folk that like to talk about this, going from an athlete that's just looking to qualify every year and just kind of be in that turnstile, if you will, to an athlete that, all right, like she's starting to make the next step a little bit and is looking to show up and start to do some damage. Did that feel like that same type of moment for you? And if so, what really changed?
To be honest, I definitely didn't go into the weekend feeling that way. I was still like coming off a little bit of a down spurt after last year's games. I mean, I got cut last year at the games and I already felt like I didn't really belong. And then I came home and I had like 4 weeks quarantine, so I couldn't see my family. And then, I don't know, I just felt like a little bit uneasy and it just wasn't going the way that I'd imagined it to go. So then going into Wadapalooza, my confidence was not very high, to say the least. And I was petrified. Like I was actually really scared to do it. I don't do competitions just to like compete. Like if I'm going to do a competition, like I'm there, I want to be in the final heat and I want to win. Like, so it was killing me that I knew that I wasn't at that level yet. And it's just like hard to sort of like bide that time and just chip away at it. So then after sort of the first event, it took me by complete surprise. Like I would have never thought that I could have won that event, especially going up against the girls that I was. But I had like a very good game plan going in, and I mean, I stuck to it and it paid off. So I was like, okay, like maybe I can like run with these girls. And then the second event happened. And when that came up, I didn't know that I was like, those were movements that were good for me. Like I knew that I sort of liked them more than your typical like high skill gymnastics, but I didn't know where I sat with them. And so I knew I had to attack the workout right from the get-go, and that's what I did. And then to come away with 2 event wins, I was like, oh my God, like what is happening? I could have never even imagined that. And then from then on, I think I had this like click of confidence where I was like, okay, like I deserve to be here. Let's just see what I can do. And then, I mean, that feeling of being in first will like stick with me forever, I think. And like, it just makes me hungrier to get back there because that's the feeling I want. Like I want to be chased and I want to be at the top. It was obviously devastating at the end to not come away with the win or not do as well as what I'd like hoped after being in first. But I think everyone has to have those experiences to then like move forward and keep like progressing. And so I think that's exactly what needed to happen for me to like check myself into gear and be like, okay, this is your sole focus. And like, if you can clean up those small like holes, then like who knows what you can achieve in the future. And I think like, I mean, Justin and Adam tell me all the time, like it's pretty cool that I was a games athlete and I still had those sorts of holes. Like if we can clean those up, like I can hopefully do a little bit more damage, which is the goal.
So as you look forward to, and this is the last question I have for you, but as you look forward to now 2023, I know it's early to start setting goals, but what are some things that you have in your head? It's like, I really want to achieve that this next season.
I mean, I'm just excited. I think having a whole season to work with these guys is going to be like amazing. I would love to be in the final heat at next year's games. I think being out on the floor on the final day in the final heat is just like, I'll be pretty happy with that. But also at the end of the day, like I know that if I go into each event giving it my all, I can't be disappointed with the outcome. But that would probably be like my overarching goal.
And as far as like for the both of you, mapping out the next few months, any plans to compete? I know it's still early and we have things like Rogue and Wadapalooza, Dubai, all those events kind of on the horizon. And I don't know if you guys have even begun to process that or start to think about what you're going to do.
Yeah, no, I fully plan on doing Rogue. It's crazy the turnaround for that. I mean, taking my time off and enjoying it because I know it comes September 1st. Like it's like I'm ramping up pretty quick to kind of be ready for Rogue. It's like I'll have like an 8-week cycle to kind of get the most that I can out of it. It's really hard kind of going into a competition like Rogue where I'm only going to have an 8-week cycle. I mean, if I was trying to do the best I possibly could at Rogue, I would have started training already, you know. But the goal is to win next year's CrossFit Games and kind of hit Rogue along the way and learn as much as I possibly can. Also, I do have a title to defend there, so I'm going to make sure that I'm ready to do that. But it should be a really good weekend. I'm excited for Rogue, but unless something goes real bad at Rogue for me, that'll probably be it for me competing the rest of the season. Maybe I'll do something fun along the way, like on a team or have fun like that. But I think I'm for sure we'll be at Wadapalooza. I don't know what my role will be though yet.
Yeah, for sure.
I am at this stage not competing at Rogue unless I get a last minute invite. I won't be there, but I'm actually heading back down under to compete at the Down Under CrossFit Championship.
Nice.
on a team, which actually hasn't been announced yet. but,
With
Can you share any more details, or is that?
well, I think it's being announced this week anyway. But with Tia, Tia and
burying the lead. All
Tia
right.
and Brooke Wells.
Whoa,
that'll
that's
be fun.
awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that'll be really fun. I think as well to be down there in front of a home crowd is just like
That'd be great.
so
That's
cool.
Sick.
And then apart from that, I haven't really decided. I'm just taking it one step at a time to see what we do. But yeah.
That's
Great.
epic.
Well, listen, I know you two are busy. You're busy taking a break. You're actually training, so you're busy. But thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate it, and best of luck at Rogue, and best of luck the rest of the way. Can't wait to watch you both compete in 2023.
Thank you. Thanks
Oh
for
yeah,
having
thanks
us.
for having us.